a financial figurine, an income profit manifesting machine. The only value they said I have is green. They called me a fiction, they called me extreme. They called me a pimp, as a matter of fact. They painted me violent, they painted me...
Why is there fear around doing content or speaking up or speaking truth to power or putting out music relevant to the struggle in life and law and courts and family law and family courts? Is because the consequence is real and the stakes are high. And on many aspects, if you're talking that you have, in my case in family law, that you have children involved, and so the stakes of your future with your family, what higher stakes are there than that, than your loved ones and your beloveds and your own seeds and your children? And so the real consequence of losing time or having court orders that literally under the threat of imprisonment and financial sanctions and fines, that you could be restricted, and that's the reality. That's how I am right now. I have 2% time. That means anything that I try to do beyond the court order is a violation of the United States law. And I will be put in jail and fined financially. One or the other. It's up to them. Or neither if they want. But the reality is they punish you in this world as the way to motivate you to so-called do right. And in a situation like this, where we don't think they're doing right, and we think being good humans and having no crimes and convictions against you, and being a biological parent to your child, that you should have some inalienable rights. And in my case, 2% time is not even in the ballpark of a equal protection, of a protected class, of constitutionally protected rights. And I'm not just talking for me as the father, I'm talking for these children, for the babies, for them to have rights to two parents. If neither parent's unfit, if neither parent's been convicted of anything bad or doing some serious harm that would, result and warrant removing that parent in any way, shape, or form. So that's why we get worried, is because the stakes are high and the consequences are severe. I've already been punished $50,000 for my methods of trying to speak truth to power, not doing proper procedure in the way that they demand I do it, and being deemed having wasted the time of the court. And so I was punished financially, $50,000. Okay, so when you have something like that happen and you at the economic level that my family's at, that'll change your perspective real fast, especially when there's power backing their liens in these court orders. So that's why I do it. On the streets, you can feel as tough as you want, but going into the courts where there's power, like some people have only dealt with the police on the streets, and people that have been incarcerated, and see what real power is, what the real loss of rights and sovereignty and self-determination, however you want to define that, as a so-called free and independent human. Most people, especially the Europeans, haven't even been incarcerated. So the concept in general of the serious threats that you face, not just through incarceration, but especially as indigenous melanated men, for losing your life on these streets, from the system or otherwise, from drugs or the consequences of damaged decades and generations of your own peers. So, of course, there's much to fear in this world. There's much to fear with being authentic. It's still a world of war and barbarism. So just to go out, we have to be real with the reality that people can do whatever they want still. That includes violence. So that's why we try to be civilized and develop families and self and philosophies, and then communities and nations with peaceful ways, with ways that protect ourselves and empower others without putting the collective or the individual in as little risk as we can. So, but getting to specifics on these hip-hop tracks and doing YouTube videos and speaking out and putting names to faces with judges, The reason you fear it is because we can all talk about law and common law and, constitutional law, civil law, statutory law, Article 3 courts and Article 1 courts. There's a lot we can discuss when it comes to power and your position in these courts, your position in society in large, and the power of the body politic. And so for me, being in these courts is my 4th year of pretty much continuous family law, family courts, them dragging me in there, telling me I, have no rights, taking my time away. What we're going in to do right now, they're asking to remove from the 4 weekends I get a year, that's 8 days a year, to mother's 357 days. They're trying to cut my time in half to 2 weekends a year, or just cancel it altogether, saying I'm an uninterested party. So you have to think about that personally. A lot of people don't even have kids. So for them to put themselves in a position of thinking, oh, okay, you've already had all your time stripped away with your own bloodline, with your own seed, your own child. You're one of the most important things that a human can create in this world. Yeah, it's like it's been reduced to 4 weekends a year, but now they want to cut that in half. And it may seem like you already got nothing. What's half of nothing? But when it's your child and all you got is that, and you're trying to build on and keep hope in your heart and love and work through the severe dichotomy that starts to build in your spirit around doing right and being smart and what Creator wants for you, and fate versus self-determination and power. It comes back to power. What's your power in this position? Because all I have is my voice if I don't use any violence, which I'm a peaceful person. So that's not even on my radar. But that's what they're using. So the reason the courts have power is because they have a body politic and a collective of people that are willing to back up these orders with weapons. And so if I go to Oregon and try to exercise time with my daughter, that's who comes to deal in the present time, in the physical, with the situation. Or the police with their weapons, and they will take me to jail. And so that is a violent situation. And so I can believe I have a right to exercise parenting and cultural teaching and passing down, and as much time, 50%, that I believe I should be entitled to with my child. But what's backing that? My family. And we're peaceful people. So all we would do is try to exercise it. And so what do you do when you have a party, in this case the mother, that refuses to let you have any time with something that is shared biologically with two people? Two people create children. In our case, intentionally. So now you have one denying the time. That's a form of punishment, a form of threat, a form of injury as far as I'm concerned. That's why I've done the video on injuries. And so how do we resolve injury? In the barbaric world, we resolve it with power and force and conflict. And we've tried to civilize that into healthy, positive, peaceful, meaningful conversations and ideals, which then get codified into laws and cultural norms that we agree to and hope others agree to for the well-being of everybody, including the individual and the families. And so that's where they come from. But then we get to these situations where real punishment, real difference in ideals, and then interpretation, whether that's of the Constitution or just what family values should be in general. Because at the end of the day, it's all the same, human interpretation. And these judges, and the mother in this case, and apparently the whole system in Oregon, shares the opinion that for a child, whether it's an infant, a toddler, post-toddler, 3, 4, 5, into grade school, middle school, high school, I don't care what age, that you feel it's okay to split one of the genders, one of the parentage out and just remove it for no bad doing, just because you think a child can't have that if one parent moves away or if there becomes discordance and disagreement. That the law and whatever your values and your interpretations of the law and what is right and moral in this world, at least in my case, is that you are going to back by force and sign an order and a declaration to the public and society at large that if I try to exercise more than 4 weekends a year, something negative is going to happen. Because that's not okay, and it's not in the best interest of the child. That's what your whole laws are based on, best interest of the child. Well, you've never met the child, you don't see us outside of court, you don't validate any of your so-called theories and judgments on oral testimony and all that. What you're even basing it off, I've been in these family courts for 4 years, and what you're basing any of these decisions off is a sad excuse for true understanding of dynamics and complexities in these families that are coming to you for help at the hardest time in their life. So where does any fear come from? Risk of threat, damage. And so that comes with power. A smaller animal on the totem pole is going to fear a larger animal, typically. The bears and the lions and the sharks. And so that's natural in all of creation. Why we fear anything. Why we fear other species is because they can do harm unto us and we want to feel good. We don't like pain, we like pleasure. And so we're driven by biology, by genetics, and then by the mind and logos and the divine. So we make our decisions based on self-preservation and idealization and self-preserving motivation, which sometimes is very selfish, very individualized. But we like to think as a culture and as a people and as tribes and conscious, elevating, sentient beings that we've moved past. That's how humans look at themselves. We've moved past the animal kingdom. Like we're not animals anymore because of our so-called brilliant intellect. And so because we have such intellect, we believe then we can now minimize our fears and overcome them through science and intelligence and learning from the past and integration into the future. That's wisdom, that's knowledge. And we're people of knowledge, that's what we say. So we try to manage our risks and our fears with our intentions and our desires. And so we fear releasing stuff because it could come back to hurt us. Because egos sometimes, when they're hurt, they lash out. Revenge is a real thing because self-preservation is a real thing. And we see that everywhere, including these courts. And so I'm worried about backlash from the courts specifically because what they've done without showing I've been a bad human in any way, shape, or form, to me is unacceptable and mind-boggling to the degree that I feel like, how can't it be personal and discriminatory to some aspect of me? Whether that's my race, my color, my gender, just my personal energy specifically with these people that I've dealt with. In my case alone, I have no idea because I can't chalk it up to negligence. And I can't take a 2% to 98% split as anything less than a huge, severe statement. Because I don't see any positivity in splitting the genders like that and removing a father to that degree or a mother to that degree. I think there has to be a better way to incorporate something that resembles a 50-50 because we need both genders. And if you have one or two parties that truly do refuse to cooperate and co-create that dynamic and value that you need the gender polarity for the raising of these babies, that they need a good masculine male role model and they need a good feminine female role model not role model even, just a parent. And that doesn't have to be biological. I don't know my biological parents. I've never met them. I was given up at birth. So I know family isn't about biology, but biology certainly impacts family, just as philosophy impacts family. Just as philosophy and biology impacts the way we're going to interact with the outer world, the way we're going to seek to protect ourselves through fight or flight, and the way our mind can overcome and assimilate control over the body, and instinct, and have intention, try to rule and navigate our vehicle. And so that's where the love revolution comes from, because we don't want to hurt other people. We like to feel good. We like other people feeling good. We believe that happy people make a happy world. And it's not about some utopia shit, but it is about we can have the land of milk and honey and paradise right here. It's not that hard to respect people, to come up with some basic civil structures that don't have to do with dominating each other and trying to assimilate every other diversity into your personal makeup. Because that's what I'm afraid of. Being punished for my personal makeup instead of praised. I want to be acknowledged and valued. Who doesn't? I want to acknowledge and value you. And so when I go into these courts and any system of power, in the courts or in the streets, where I don't feel valued, where I don't feel respected and honored, and to some degree protected, then I get into fight or flight. And when we're in fight or flight, we make decisions that don't typically reflect what we say we want our highest societies to be, our highest self-actions to be. So that's why we take time to still the mind and control the breath and do things that can have us act instead of react in this world. So we can act out of love because that should look a certain way. But when I go into these courts, I don't see a lot of love. I don't see a lot of, you see vibrance in people that are compassionate, that have you and them in their highest interests, and are coming with a good, positive, optimistic attitude that we're powerful beings, and together with good intellect and good intention, we can create some amazing solutions that can be tangible and applicable right here, right now. And then when you see people that really don't work toward that are damaged or wicked or whatever they are, that they're going against the grain in a negative way, against a harmonious flow and communion with themselves and people around them, those people are easy to see. It doesn't take that long. People can front, you can fool some people sometimes, but you can't fool all the people all the time, right? All you got to do is do some due diligence and spend some real time. And you're going to get to the truth in all matters, as long as you are truly seeking the truth. And not just to be right, or not just to control your construct of this world and of your truths. Because lots of truths aren't infallible. And so lots of truths have to be deconstructed and rebuilt. That's what time does. That's what experience does, and wisdom. Part of wisdom is understanding how little we know. Some of the wisest elders we got, that's because they've humbled back to a position of accepting that, because when you accept that, your cognitive dissonance then doesn't keep you from learning new things, because they don't threaten your psychological well-being and your construct of what makes you feel safe. You can now pioneer outside of the box, outside of your safety zones, outside of your culture, outside of your norms. So that's why we do everything that's self-preservation. That's why melanated brown people go and speak like white people, like Europeans, when they're getting a job interview, or when they're in a room of Europeans sometime. They do that for self-preservation because they know what's going to help. They know people personally are selfish. They like what they relate to. So if you're going to go interview in front of a white boss, or you're going to go sit before a white judge, we know psychologically it serves us to try to emulate who they are. They wear a suit and tie, we got to wear a suit and tie. They hold their pinky like this, you might want to hold your pinky like this. But that's where you struggle as an individual, because then you start not being true to self. Now you're catering to somebody else. And why? We do that partially because not do unto self, but do unto others as their culture. We try to understand your culture. We try to understand who you are. And we don't like to make people uncomfortable. So when in Rome, occasionally we do as the Romans do. And we want you to do the same to us. Not golden rule, do unto us as you do. When you step into our culture, you try to understand some of our culture. Equal exchange. You don't come in as a missionary of whatever your philosophy and culture is. You come in open-minded, as somebody who values the diversity of the Creator, which made all these nations and all the spectrums throughout the polarity. So we only do that to cater to a power structure that we feel has not only power over you, but negative potential to damage you because of lack of good intentions or connectivity or relatability. And so those who have power over you that also have the ability to not hold you in your best interest based on your best ideals, that becomes something we fear. And in America, where that's been a dynamic not just between melanated and brown and indigenous people to the Europeans, but between all people, all relations. That's why we see families and the marriages in shambles at such a low success rate. It's because people in general are at conflict. And their ideals and their compromises and their understandings of what they're agreeing to and their contracts and everything else in between are not very solid. They're not on their square, as we say. And so that's why we try to build knowledge of self, and that's why we speak truth to power, and that's why we try to overcome our fears, even when heavy things are at stake. There's been revolutionaries, men, women, young and old, that have put their life on stake. What is more sacred and valuable than your breath? And when people put that at stake for that which they believe in, some of those are the most inspiring people in this world. But that's a scary thing to do, and not always the best thing to do for self-preservation. And we can see where people have put their life at stake, where we say maybe that wasn't the time to put your life at stake when you're at the side of the highway with these road pirates with weapons. You're trying to hold judge, trial, and jury right on the side of the road with people who are fragile egos and thick or thin skin and already on edge with the power of weapons and the authority to use them. That's not the time to hold trial and jury. That's not the time to fight the battle by yourself or with your children and the babies in the car. We do it with our community, getting the numbers and getting the collectives and getting our own philosophies refined. So that's why we keep building. That's why we put our truth and our authenticity out to our families and our community, and in this case, to the world at large, is because we feel we're good people. We don't have anything to hide. We have the right to privacy, but we also have the right to share who we are when we feel that's a good thing. And we have good intention, and we do that now with that good intent. So we believe the Creator, and hopefully people at large, when you have good intention and you come with a positive vibration, that generally good people will back that up. And we hope that's the case. And we hope that minimizes our risk of blowback from courts or otherwise, because we're trying to build, bridge the gaps, stop the Willie Lynch syndrome, which divided and conquered all people, pitting two sides against the other, wherever you can do that, young to old, so-called black to white, melanated to non-melanated, Christian to Muslim, Islam to Hindu, whatever it is. trying to create division and room for discordance with the people. So we got to stop that. We're trying to build with each other. We're trying to overcome our fears in a peaceful, healthy way so that we can get back to being balanced, being safe and secure and loved and appreciated, and start building our dreams and our ideals and the greatest, grandest vision of who we are. That's my man Neil Donald Walsh, and I give credit where credit is due. There's so many teachers, so many elders of so many nationalities, and I give thanks and respect to all of them. We send peace and love to you and the world. Let's keep building. My name is MCAD, Rad Dad. Check us out, the music for the revolution at rhymesforthetimes.com. Peace and love, aho and ashe.
It's all coming together right here now. It's all coming together right here now. It's all coming together right here. Who's that? It's love, can you feel it coming through that? Conscious revolutionary music. Yeah, you can feel it in your veins.
Hey, give thanks for those who donated and ask for ways to donate and support and help the cause. I set up a PayPal account for donations, so if you want to donate, you can do so at lovefurpapa@gmail.com. That's our PayPal account, and that's love, the number 4, POPPA@gmail.com. If you got $1 to spare, every dollar helps. We just want to say thank you to those who have supported in every way that they have. Peace and love.